Hello, Dash community. This is Kevin McKernan from Medicinal Genomics. I want to give you a little bit of an update on what we're doing with some of the Dash proceeds that we were awarded back in January. So we put in a very small Dash award that was about 10 Dash per month for 10 months. And this was aimed toward primarily 85% of it was targeting a CanMed sponsorship. CanMed's a conference that we hold. This year it's going to be at UCLA. It's traditionally done at Harvard Med School. We're moving it to California this year for the legalization event because we were told we won't fit it in Harvard anymore. It's probably going to be 1,500 people. We are having a crypto track there, and we're looking forward to a lot of Dash participation in that discussion. And we already have a very good elite panel of speakers. Please go see the CanMed website. We have listed some of the preliminary speakers that are there. You'll see Dr. McCullum there, who discovered THC, and a host of other very reputable folks. It's going to be a great event. So that's moving along as anticipated. We've had a lot of success getting other sponsors and exhibitors already signed on, even though this is many months in advance of the meeting. So that's moving along ahead of schedule. The other part of the Dash grant was to get our notarization that we use on Cannapedia moved and migrated over to Dash. And that happened actually very quickly within the first month. The people at Stamp.io helped us do that, and they were incredibly responsive and very fast to work with. And the only outstanding piece that we're still working on is trying to get our NetSuite ERP integrated with Dash payments, and that's taking a little bit more time, but we still have a few more months to work that out. So things are moving along very quickly with that proposal, but during this discussion of this proposal, I think it was one of the Dash reviewers of all the projects that were going on sent around a questionnaire and asked, hey, is there going to be anything of scientific note that is going to be presented at CanMed? And that got me thinking about what things we could do together. And a project came right to mind, which is a project that is sorely needed. While we do have a cannabis reference genome, it is in horrible shape. And this is largely because the nature of the cannabis genome is a very, very difficult one to sequence. It's about 65% AT, which makes it very hard to sequence from a chemistry standpoint. That's because the bases aren't perfectly balanced. Human genome is a little bit more like 56% AT, but the more challenging aspect of it is the repeat content in the genome and also the polymorphism rate. The fact that the mothers and fathers can be so distantly apart and still interbreed makes it so that every cell effectively has two closely aligned genomes, but they differ by about one base in every 100 letters. That makes the assembly process very hard, and for the last 7 years, this has really plagued the cannabis industry, where we haven't had a very good reference. Now, you'll see in the proposal that we're putting forward that the tools are now here to fix this problem, and I can't think of a better place to do it than in conjunction with Dash and perhaps on Dash Drive, to the extent that it's ready at the time. And in doing so, we should think about how we can turn this peer review process into something that's completely cryptographically controlled. No more sending manuscripts out to journals who send them out to anonymous reviewers who then sit on it for 6 months and don't put any monetary incentive into the process. The reason we think that needs to change is because if you actually look at the replication rate in a lot of peer-reviewed literature, it's not very good. It's like under 50%. Likewise, if you look at the retraction rates, it's actually quite high. And sometimes the retraction rates are even higher for the more prestigious journals. So this is a sign that peer review is broken. And for anyone who's been involved in peer review, you will know this pain very well. One reason it's broken is there's no monetary system involved. For instance, everyone who reviews papers pretty much pushes them off to the last minute to when they're on the can or in the bathroom or in between meetings, and they are hurrying through them because it is unpaid work. It is work that people do on the sidelines in their spare moments when they're taking away time from their family, and as a result, we have a horrible peer review system. One model that we've really appreciated is these more open source models that have been evolving. You'll see things at F1000 where the reviewers actually have to put their names on the review. That produces very productive review because people don't want to be, it's one thing to anonymously shoot down someone's paper and run off and you're never held responsible for it. It's another thing to actually put your name on it and have that be just nothing but scientific trolling. So that happens less in things like at F1000. However, this can be improved upon because even those journals can take some time because they don't actually incentivize the review process to go on at any accelerated rate. So we think there's an opportunity here to actually have this genome not only be funded by Dash, partially because we have other people that are helping to fund this as well, but for it to be notarized on the Dash blockchain, but also run through a peer review bounty program with Dash. And we can organize all of this with timestamps and with notarization events so that the peer review, while it is incentivized, is 100% transparent, where all communication back and forth with the parties incentivizing the review, and if the reviewer is actually taking on those tasks, all of those things can get properly incentivized and recorded and etched onto the blockchain. And so we want to do this with this next cannabis reference, and we want to make it the best reference we've ever seen. We're aiming to make it 100-fold better. It's not going to come at a very high price. As best we can imagine, this is probably going to cost up to $120,000 to $130,000, and we think we can turn this around in time for CanMed, at least for displaying some of the data at CanMed. The assembly process is often iterative, and that might go on a little bit longer, but we're only asking for funds up until that point. And that should generate the bulk of the data that's required and get the assembly process moving. It's a very exciting project from a genomic standpoint because we're threading in a couple new technologies here. We're using some of these nanopore sequencers, which are pretty cool. These, while interesting, might still be a little premature for what we want to do, so we're also threading in a really novel chromatin cross-linking technology known as Dovetail, which can help really tie these chromosomes together into single contigs, and this gives us much better understanding of the genome. So please give it a read, and we encourage your feedback. But we think this is a really unique opportunity because it puts Dash in a position to be talking about being an arbiter of truth. And not just truth in terms of financial transactions, but if we can move scientific publishing over to a Dash drive-like architecture, we can also drive scientific publishing in this direction. And I think this is incredibly important. I don't know how many of you are involved in the peer review process, but it's broken. And it's politicized. And too many times you have papers, particularly like in the cannabis field, that are heavily politicized, where it's difficult to actually get them published because for one, it's never federally funded, and for two, you usually need to have all types of licenses to do certain experiments. However, we can cut out that entire copyright nonsense that's going on in the peer review process, and we can incentivize these reviews to happen in weeks instead of months, and radically increase the speed at which science happens and the fidelity at which it happens by making sure there is blockchain behind everything, and we've got cryptographic notarization on all communication. So anyway, please join us in this because I think this is actually really would be a very historic event to get the best cannabis reference out there and to get it landed on blockchains with the whole peer review process done through a crypto bounty process. In addition to this, we have a few crypto bounties baked into the proposal to review the proposal periodically to make sure that we're making good with Dash's gift. And likewise, we also anticipate trying to put this through a traditional peer review, probably at F1000 or one of these more open source journals, but that may take a little bit longer than the timelines we've put forward in this case. We think we can get the crypto-based bounty peer review done much, much faster. So let us know your feedback, and thank you for your time.